Hey, if you think this market's changing, you are absolutely correct. And I'm going to show you how, and I'm going to tell you why. This is Dean Odell with Seven Gables Real Estate and the Odell Group. Today is June 12th. We're going to take a look at the latest data and charts. Let's get started right now. Okay, so looking at this Orange County listing inventory, you're starting to see that normal pattern of where inventory starts to peak for this time of year. Or the red line, you can see we are much higher than the previous 3 years, and we are still below the 3-year average with having 4,645 listings today in the market. That's up from 2 weeks ago and way up from last year, way up. Almost 2,000 homes more on this market since last year. And the 3-year average prior to COVID was 6,501 homes for this time of year. So now let's match this up to demand and take a look at the next slide. And what you'll see here is when you look at the last 30 days, demand has been very consistent and very steady. I mean, we would just call it a flat line, right? Take a look at red, but then take a look at the last 2 years before that, which are the blue and the purple lines. I mean, we're right there. So we have the same amount of demand with almost 2,000 more homes in the marketplace, right? We look at that 3-year average and we say, okay, well, the 3-year average was 2,766 when there used to be 6,501 homes on prior to COVID, right? So what's interesting about this is let's take a look at where we are today. Basically, when you take a look at the number of pendings that are in escrow, we have one buyer in escrow for every 2.84 homes that are on the market. If we look at where we were last year, we had one buyer for every 1.69 homes that were on the market. That's a big change, right? And if you look at the 3-year average, because we're calling that was the average prior to COVID, back then it was one buyer in for every 2.3 homes. So you could see we actually have more homes on the market now per buyer than pre-COVID. And from last year, we are way up, right? From 1.69 to 2.84. So the buyers have a lot more inventory to choose from. Let's keep moving through this. We're going past demand and we're gonna look at the expected marketing time. And if we look at what that is now, it's 85 days for the whole marketplace. Now look at the balanced market begins at 90 days, you guys. So we are getting very close to a market where neither the buyer or the seller has an advantage. It is just what can you guys work out, right? 2 weeks ago, we were at the same level, 85 days. Last year, 51 days. So if you think of it this way, the market's about 50% slower than it was last year at this time. And if you look at the 3-year average, it was 71 days, and it's still slower today than it was prior to COVID. So those are interesting stats, and it really shows that the market has definitely changed. So what we always want to know is what is the expected marketing time by price range? And I thought what was most interesting about this chart is look at the lowest price range. Now you can't get much between $0 and $750,000 in Orange County anymore, but that is only a slight seller's market taking 70 days. That used to be a hot seller's market and things were flying off of the market. Even last year, you could see that was at 38 days. If we went the year before that, it would even be faster. So we're seeing that this market is slowing, but what's interesting is the hot sellers market between 750 and $1 million. So what it's showing me is that there's some people that are rolling equity to get into that 750 to $1 million range, and that's a little bit hotter, where that 0 to 750, you're really dealing with first-time buyers that probably don't have much down payment, not much to select from, and it's just taking longer, and interest rates are contributing to that, okay? But if you look at those two together and you look at the current inventory, you add that together, that's almost 29% of the inventory and it's 40% of the demand, right? So when you add them together, it still shows that that's a pretty healthy market that we're seeing there. So if you go from 1 million to 2 million, what you're going to see is now it's a slight seller's market. Okay, that was always a hot seller's market as well. That's slowed down. We go to the 2 million to 2.5 million. Now you're talking about 124 days on average to get a home sold. Geez, that's 4 months. And then beyond that, over 2.5 million, then you're getting into a deep buyer's market. And that 2.5 to 4 million, that has really changed over the last 90 days. And we've seen a big slowdown in that price point. So let's move on now with what we're noticing out there in the marketplace with my advice for buyers and sellers. Okay, guys, so here's what's happening. Reality is setting in. We've got interest rates at 7%. Those are the highest it's been in a long time. It got there very fast from where it was when it was down at its lowest to where it is now. So you've got that big move on affordability from a monthly payment standpoint. You also have what prices have done since about 2011. They've done nothing but gone up. And the market is finally starting to level. It's starting to cool. It's going back to more of a normal market. In some respects, you could even say it's slower than a normal market if we're just looking at pre-COVID years. So anytime you get to have a market where it starts to be about 3 sellers for every 1 buyer, which is what we're seeing, 3 sellers for every 1 escrow, I should say, that's when we know that the market's getting back to kind of a normal level, a balanced level. So that's what's happening. So as a buyer, you know what? That's good. You can take your time if something seems overpriced to you, but I'll tell you what, there's so many buyers that we meet out there that don't understand whether something's overpriced or not because they just don't know the marketplace they're shopping in. They may think it's overpriced because it's just more than they want to pay, but you still as a buyer have to understand what other people are paying for things. And I think it's really important to have an agent that's experienced and knows what's going on in your price range and in the areas that you're looking for. The days of trying to go direct to a listing agent because you think that's going to somehow either save money or get you the house, there's really no reason for that anymore. Things are not just flying off the market in a day. Unless they are super aggressively priced, then we will still see multiple offers, okay? But you guys can stop your panicking in terms of, I got to make an offer right now, okay? So think this through, have a good agent that's working for you, and they're going to tell you how urgent it is for you to probably make an offer on that property. Try to get your own agent. Listing agent has their seller, and that always seems to be the best way to do things, okay? Now, if you look at being a seller in this market, so the sellers, you still have to have your house looking good because now you have more competition, okay? And if you're not gonna spend the time or allow listing agents like us to help you get it all ready without any hassles, we do everything for you guys. It's a great program. Your house is gonna look awesome when it hits the market. It's gonna make it sell in the shortest time for the most amount of money. But even so, you still have to make the decision how to price your home. And I get some sellers that say, hey, Dean, you know what? This is your deal, you tell me. And then I have some sellers that say, no, I want this for it, and I'm not gonna take less than that for it, So everybody's different, but the most important thing you can do is come on the market at a competitive price where you're gonna catch the buyer's attention, because with the amount of inventory that keeps hitting the market relative to the amount of demand, inventory is just gonna keep stacking up. And when it gets stacked up enough, that is when you're going to see prices actually start to roll backwards. What will stop it from rolling backwards? Better interest rates. If we had interest rates drop another % right now, buyers would have almost 10% more purchasing power and we'd see a whole different market, right? So, the sellers can hope for lower rates, so can the buyers, but there's just nothing we're seeing right now that's causing the Fed to lower short-term rates, which in fact would lower long-term rates, okay? So hopefully we see that soon, but I don't want you to think it's a bad market. It's a normal market. The sellers seem like they're frustrated because they can't get their homes sold. You guys, this is a normal market, all right? So be patient. This is a great market to just put you guys together, balanced, and a fair deal for everybody. That's a good market, all right? So if we can help you out, give us a call. And our number is here. You can text us direct, and we'd love to help you out. Thanks. Bye-bye.